Good morning. Happy New Year. If I haven't met you before, or man, it's just been a really long time since you've been to church, but you're ready to kick off a new habit. My name is Adam, and I'm the campus pastor here at our Corona campus, which means I get the opportunity to teach most weekends here. And I'm so glad that you chose to be here on this particular Sunday, because I think there's no better way to get your year started right than to do so in church and to really wrap your head around what does God have for you in this new year. I don't just want good things in my life. I want whatever God has for me in my life. And that's what we're here to kind of find out, how to align ourselves with what God is doing, and so we can move in his direction and get access to his best for our lives. And so today we are starting this brand new series called Planted. And some of you, just based on the title and the artwork, you're like, I'm already in. I don't even know what it's about, but I just like plants, right? Where are all the plant ladies at, by the way? Just, shockingly quieter than I would have expected. I'm married to a plant lady, and she is not quiet or secretive about her passion for plants. If you've ever been to her office up here, it's a jungle, right? I mean, it's just plants everywhere, and she's got plants at home, and she got a car plant. I was like, I didn't even know you could do that. She's like, you can put a plant anywhere. I was like, I'm not arguing with you. You can do whatever you want to. But this series is really about this idea of like the power of putting down roots. Like, what if this was the year that you really rooted yourself in a place around specific people that you know are going to be good for your life, and you kept showing up time and time again and let God do the work that takes time to do in your life. And so I want to encourage you to be here for every message of this series, to tune in online, the podcast, whatever you've got to do, rearrange your schedule, because I'm telling you, if you lean in during this series, take it seriously, apply it to your life, you will be set up to have the best year yet. And that's what my hope is for you. And so for those of you taking notes today, and if you've never done that before, new year, new habit, start it today. Write down something on a note sheet or an old Walgreens receipt or whatever you got, a menu, your kid's yearbook, whatever you've got laying around. And the title of my message today is Anywhere But Here. Anywhere But Here. I wonder if I'm the only one that sometimes you look around at your life and your surroundings, and it's just like, it feels boring, right? It's just like, it's not that great. For whatever reason, during this holiday season, my family and I spent some time watching like these remodel shows, and nothing can make you hate your house like a remodel show, right? During the holidays, I was like, it's great. And then we started watching these shows, and I'm like, this dump. We got to get out of here. Man, this house we remodeled the kitchen like when we first moved in, which was like 8 years ago, right? It feels like not too long ago until you watch these shows, and they're making comments like, ugh, that countertop is so 2025. I'm like, 2025 just happened. We can't be replacing countertops and color palettes every year. This is crazy. But this sort of dissatisfaction, I think, happens to a lot of us a lot of the time. I don't know if you did any traveling over the holiday season, but I find that whenever I travel anywhere, it takes me 2 or 3 days to completely fall in love with wherever it is I'm visiting. Initially, I don't want to go because I'm kind of a curmudgeon, right? But as soon as I get there and we're hanging out and we're going to different places and we're eating at the restaurants and seeing the sights, I'm like, this place is great. You know what I mean? Babe, look on Zillow. What would it cost? Don't pretend like you haven't done this, right? Where you're just like, I wonder what it would cost. We should move here, right? Am I crazy? I think we're meant for this town, right? And I get all into it, and I'm like, it would be so great. And part of it is, the reason is because you're only seeing the highlights, right? You're only getting the best part of the town, the hot spots, like the most beautiful locations. You're usually staying in a hotel where they're there to pamper you, and so it's great. But you're also free from all responsibility. So it's like the double whammy, right? When you go and visit somewhere, not only are you engaged in the best parts of that place, but you are also disengaging or escaping from the worst parts of your place. Like, there's no chores, there's not the same rules, You don't have the responsibilities that you have in your normal life, and you're like, man, this is what I want full time. And this is part of it. It gets me. I know that it's a trick, but it tricks me every time. And I tell my wife we should move here, and every time she's like, babe, it wouldn't be the same. Because your version of living here wouldn't be like vacating here, right? The version of living here wouldn't include like a 5-star chef making you an omelet from a buffet every day while you judgingly observe him and then throw it away when it's not to your liking and just make another one and then get a stack of pancakes and waffles. That's how you know you're really living high, right? When you get the pancakes and the waffles, just double carbs on carbs on carbs. She's like, it wouldn't be like that. You wouldn't get that sort of treatment. You wouldn't like have somebody coming in and just cleaning up the room for you every day and having turn down service where they put that little chocolate on your pillow. And I'm like, well, I could have that. And then she looks at me like, oh no, you didn't just indicate that you think that I should do this for you. And then I'm like, I was meaning that, but then I like immediately backpedal and then I take her apology shopping. And it's kind of what we do. It's our thing, right? But you've done this before, right? You don't even have to go somewhere else to fantasize about living there. Because you can get on social media and in a matter of seconds, you can begin to scroll through and look at a life somewhere else and what it would be like, and you can begin to imagine it and how much better it is than the life that you're living and how much happier you'd be if you lived there and you went there and that's what you woke up to every single morning. But it is really easy to romanticize a life that you're not living. It's really easy to sort of make up a story in your head about what it would be like to be somewhere that you really have no idea about. And the thing that I think we ignore when we're fantasizing about where we wish we were is that every life has boring details that hold it together, just like yours does. And if you went there, you'd still have it. Like those people in that place, they still have to take out the trash. They still have to do the dishes. They still have to pick up after their dog and pick up the poo in the little sacks and drag it around and throw it away. They still have to deal with their kids' nonsense, and they still have to deal with traffic and deal with all of the everyday issues. And I know you're thinking like, yeah, but they get to deal with that in Hawaii. I just want to feel what it would feel like to experience that. I think many of us, because of this, we live our lives sort of half here and half looking out for something better somewhere else. And I don't even think we do this with just where we live. I think we do it with where we work, and we do it with what we drive and who we're with and how we look at the moment. It's almost like we all seem to be possessed by this relentless restlessness. Can you feel it inside of you? Where you just feel like you are not settled. Like you want to go somewhere or do something different. And if somebody were to ask you, well, what is it that you want? You would be like, I don't know, but it's out there. And I'm just going to keep scrolling and searching until I find it. And here's the thing. This is not new. This is not just a byproduct of an internet age. This is something that has always existed somewhere in the human heart. In fact, if you rewind the clock back to the Old Testament and you're looking at God's people, in ancient culture, land was a really big deal. Like where you lived was super significant, especially for the Israelites, because they believed that Jerusalem, Israel, was the promised land, that it was a place that God designed specifically for them, and it was the perfect place to live. They escaped slavery. They toiled through the wilderness to tunnel toward this place, and they finally got there, and it was to be the land flowing with milk and honey, which is a metaphor, right? It means that anything you could ever want, even stuff that you don't necessarily need, just stuff that would be so nice to have, this place has it. If you can get to there, there will never be anything else that you would ever want or need again. This is the place in which, if you get there, you have arrived. And the people did arrive there, and they did enjoy it for a time, and then they were conquered, and they were exiled to somewhere else. They were captured and taken away from this place that they believed was the perfect place. And when they weren't there, all they could think about was getting back there. and how much better that place was than the place that they were at. And they begged God, God, you got to get us out of here and take us somewhere better. Or at least let us be in charge of here. Isn't that the thing that we still think today? We look around at like where we live, our neighborhood, or maybe our state, or maybe our country, and we're like, oh man, I don't like it here. God, you got to get me out of here. Or at least let the people I like be in charge. One of those two things. And that's what these people are begging God for. They don't want to lock in where they are. And God answered these people, their prayers, and this is what he says to them. Jeremiah 29, verse 5. Maybe you didn't notice Jeremiah has other verses than the one that you know. And this is right before that. Jeremiah 29, verse 5 says this. God says to them, build homes and plan to stay. Plant gardens and eat the food they produce. Marry and have children. Then find spouses for them so that you may have grandchildren. Multiply. Work for the peace and prosperity of the city I sent you to. Pray to the Lord for it, for its welfare will determine your welfare. And you should know that as soon as God communicated this to these people through his prophet Jeremiah, they were like, no, thank you. It was not what they wanted to hear. It was deeply offensive to them because they were thinking like, how could settling down here, of all places, possibly be what God wants for me? This is not my kind of place. These are not my kind of people. I am not made for these conditions. There is no way that God approves of how most of these people are living their lives. I mean, come on. So much of the way that they think and talk and act, like there's no way that that stuff is godly. This place where I'm at right now couldn't possibly be God's answer to his best for me. And I have a really valid reason for that. Because I don't like it here. And I wonder if you've ever had this moment in your life. I wonder if you have ever asked God where he wants you to go, and he responded by telling you to stay. And in that moment, you were like, okay, well, that couldn't have been God. Because God wants me to chase my dreams, and this place is a freaking nightmare. I didn't put freaking on the slide because sometimes my grandma watches online. She's hard of hearing, so if it's not printed, she won't know I said it. Felt like the sentence needed it, though. Like, God couldn't want me to put down roots here because this place is boring. I mean, like, there's nothing to do, and the people are too close-minded or too liberal or somehow both at the same time, and nobody gets me, and everyone's fake, and there's no opportunities here. This can't be God's will for my life. And we blame God for not liking where we are, even though, the same as this story, maybe you are where you are because God sent you there. I think a lot of times our dissatisfaction with where we are is not God's issue, it's our issue. And we over-spiritualize it so that we don't feel shallow in the fact that we just don't like it here. And this prophet is asking these people, what if the life that you were longing for isn't about finding different soil, but about fostering deeper roots? What if the issue is not this place? What if it's the patterns in your life to treat this as tentative, as something that is surface and temporary, as something that I'm not here permanently, I'm just passing through, I'm not going to put down, I'm not going to stick because this is just a moment. The scripture talks about this idea over and over again, and the metaphor it uses to describe like locking into where you are is to be planted. And there are all different examples of descriptions of what this means. But I want to highlight one that we're going to come back to again and again through the course of this series. It's Psalm chapter 1, the first 3 verses. And this is what it says. Oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked or stand around with sinners or join in with mockers. We're going to come back to that in future weeks. But they delight in the law of the Lord, meditating on it day and night. We'll hit that later too. Verse 3, they are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit each season. Their leaves never wither, and they prosper in all they do. Now, the third verse, that's the sales pitch, right? When you hear that part, you're like, yes, please. I would like to have a very fruitful life and prosper in everything I do. Sign me up. But how do you get to that place? Like, what does it actually mean to be planted? And this passage that we just read in the book of Jeremiah, I think tells us, but because it's so contextualized in a specific time and place, I think sometimes we miss the principles that God is trying to point out. And so I just want to unpack the principles of what it means to be planted. And God begins by saying this: to build homes and plan to stay. And I'm not telling you like you are not in God's will if you're not building a home, because you're like, the rates are not good. We cannot afford it, right, in this state. But essentially what God is saying the principle beneath it is to privately decide and publicly declare you aren't going anywhere. Because renting is temporary, but building is long-term. And it's God's way of saying, listen, do things that make it obvious to yourself and those around you that you are locking in and you're going to be fully present for however long you're here. In this moment, in this season, in this relationship, in this job, that you are going to privately decide and publicly declare that you aren't going anywhere. In other words, he's saying, like, you can just decide that you want to be where you are. Now, maybe that is sort of mind-blowing for you because you're like, no. The problem isn't in my mind. The problem is in the place. But God is like, maybe it's not the place. Maybe it's your perspective. I wonder what it would look like this next year as an experiment, even just for a couple months, if you just decided like, no, I'm not stuck. I'm choosing to be here. I am choosing this path, this place, these people in my life right now. I'm going to lock in and commit for the time that I'm here. I'm going to be fully present. And God is telling these people, first and foremost, to be planted means to say, I'm going to stick around for a while. And then he goes on to say this: plant gardens and eat the food they produce. And essentially what he means by this is he's saying, like, take responsibility to develop what you need right where you're at. Take responsibility to develop what you need right where you're at. In other words, stop daydreaming about how good the food probably tastes somewhere else and plant your own garden, girl. I added the girl, but you could feel that it was implied in the text. There's this famous scripture in the book of Galatians that you probably heard before that says, you will reap what you sow. You heard that before? In other words, like, you get back the grown-up version of whatever it is you are planting or investing into. And this is the question I want to ask you, because there's probably something in your life where you're like, how come I haven't gotten there yet? Or how come I haven't seen this yet? Or how come this isn't happening for me? And the self-reflective question to really chew on is, are you mad that you haven't reaped what you didn't sow? And you're like, God, you've cheated me. And God's like, I've been providing sun and rain. You haven't planted anything. You're like, I don't see what that has to do with anything, God. You ever complain about what other people have, even though you kind of know how they got it? But it's God's fault, obviously. How come they get strawberries? They planted strawberries. You could have. You got the same patch of land that they have. How come they look so good? Because they went to the gym 4 times a week instead of just buying the outfit and watching TV in it. Doesn't work as good. How come they have so many good friends? Because, and this is going to blow your mind, because they actually left their house and did things with real people. And that's what it turns out, that's what that grows. How come they get to go on that vacation? That seems unfair, because they have a second job and a budget. You're like, I don't know, that sounds crazy to me. And really what God is trying to tell these people, and I think us, is like, hey, everything that's not going your way is not everyone else's fault. He's saying to these people, like, listen, if you are not eating well, it's because you're not gardening well. And the same thing is true in your life. If you're not getting the growth you want, maybe you're not investing what's required for the growth that you desire. Then he says this in verse 6, marry and have children. Some of you are like, yes, Jesus, I'm going to claim that for my life. All the singles out there, like the Lord's, he's saying it for this year. Then find spouses for them. Now, again, let's dig below the surface of the particulars to find the principle here. And essentially what God is saying is cultivate relational intimacy inside your current community. Cultivate relational intimacy inside your current community. You ever bump into people that are just like, they complain to you and they're just like, there's no good people around here. And you're like, I'm a people around here. What are you talking about? It feels like a horrible insult, right? Everyone around sucks. You're like, I don't suck. I'm here. I'm great. And what God is saying to these people who ended up in a different place where a lot of people aren't like them and they're just like, these are not my kind of people. This is not my sort of thing. Like, this isn't who I see myself connecting with and being a part of. And God is essentially telling these people, you are not better than this community. You're not better than the people that are surrounding you. And if you give them a chance, you may find that they're exactly who and what you need. So don't wait for another season or another group of people to begin cultivating deep, meaningful friendships. Introduce yourself. Have a real conversation. See if they want to go bowling. Sign up for a team. Show up to a group. Host a game night. Binge Stranger Things together and then gripe about how much you hate it. Essentially what he's saying is this. Be a friend, don't wait to be friended. Don't sit around like hoping people are going to find you and come after you and do all the things like you know the kind of connection you want. Go initiate that in other people. And when you are the friend that you want to have, you'll discover that you have the kinds of friends that you are. It begins to circle around. Then the prophet goes on to say in verse 7, work for the peace and prosperity of the city. And essentially what he's saying is this, work to make where you are a place where everyone belongs and benefits. Again, keep in mind that these people were uprooted and planted in a place where people don't speak their language, they don't share their belief system, they don't feel like connected to these people in the way that they want to. And they're like, man, these people are not my people. But the prophet is saying, listen, if you invest in this place and try and make it a place where everyone belongs and benefits, you will turn it into the place that you have been longing for. That means you should include people who don't think like you and act like you and believe like you, people that maybe you don't like and who don't even like you. Because joy is a byproduct of contribution, not consumption. In other words, you will like your life better when you can point to how you are making your community better. Like the reality of it is, you ever do this? I do this all the time where I start to get overwhelmed with life where I'm just like, man, is anything I'm doing making a difference? You know what I need? I just need a few days to just rot and just do nothing. And that'll supercharge me and make me feel better. And the first day is awesome, right? The first day is the best. And then the second day is pretty good. And then the third day, you're just like, everything is meaningless. Right? You're just like, you're not doing anything with your life. And it starts to feel disconnecting at a certain point because just consuming over and over again has a threshold, it has a limit. You were made to make the world better. And although you can't make the whole world better, you can make your corner of it better. And I'll tell you, the thing that I've noticed about the couple decades I've been a pastor is that the people who serve at church always grow more and are more fulfilled than those who just sit in church. And so if you're just sort of showing up and you're just sort of here, but you're not actually contributing or connecting in any sort of way, there's going to be something missing. And then he ends with this: pray for the welfare of your community. And you guys are really going to hate this one. Essentially what he's saying is ask God to meet the needs of your enemies. Isn't that the worst? And he really means it too, because Jesus says it again a couple times in the New Testament, which is a bummer. Because if you're like me, you're like, I don't want to pray for that. I mean, I don't want God to bless these people. They hurt me. I don't like them. But the reality of it is, even though we have this impulse of like, I want revenge on the people that I don't like, or the people that I feel like are messing things up or getting in the way of my life or standing between me and my goals. These people are obstacles. They're frustrating. They're hurtful. But we don't actually make the world better by getting anybody back. We make the world better by helping people get better. And investing in doing this is what begins to impact people. And so in this passage, God is saying, like, listen, pray like, God, meet the deepest needs of the people who frustrate me the most. Because, God, if you meet them where they're at, I hear that, amen? She's doing better than most of you guys. I mean, I hate to call it out. God, like, meet their deepest needs, because if you meet their deepest needs, our surface interactions are going to be more calm and connected and considerate. God, don't get them back. Make them better. And I got to tell you, when God replied to these people's prayer to get the heck out of there by telling them these ways to be planted, it was nothing that they wanted to hear. Because it's probably not what you want to hear at this moment. It's not always what I want to hear. And I think the reason is that we daydream about a different life elsewhere to avoid having to address our dysfunction in our life here. Because the reality is, your biggest problems are you problems, which means they're going to follow you wherever you go. And this is the myth that we all buy into. New year, I need to change my surroundings. I need to get out of here and away from these people. I need to go somewhere and do something completely new. But you know people that have done this, right? They're like, this guy is the worst. I got to get out of this relationship. Oh, this one, this is what it, you know what? He's the worst in a lot of the same ways. And so another one, and it's the third one, there's something wrong with this one too. And it's like, you know what all three of those guys have in common? They all dated you. There's a common denominator there. I mean, I don't know if there's anything going on in you. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to have to address that. I think a lot of times we want to go to a new place, start a new relationship, start a new thing, because we don't want to have to deal with the thing in us that's sabotaging everything around us. It's easier to go somewhere else, but then you're just pushing repeat on the same thing that you were trying to escape because it was you all along. You see, making progress, I really believe, is less about the environment oftentimes and more about your level of engagement. I wonder if it's not the place that you're in right now that's the problem. I wonder if it's that if you're real, you're checked out. You know when you like binge watch a Netflix show? Don't pretend like you don't know what I'm talking about right now. Some of you are like, I'm too holy for that. I usually just read my Bible in the evenings for hours on end. Shut up. No, you don't. And you're watching it, and it's like, and then you're like you're just one episode, and then you get stuck. You're like one more, and then you're just like going down the thing, and then eventually, if you watch too long, it like tries to regulate you by asking you this question. It's like, are you still watching? And I always imagine it like very condescending. You know what I mean? I don't know what the AI at Netflix sounded like, but it's like, oh, are you still watching? Is this really what you're choosing to do with your life? And I'm like, you know what? I don't need your judgment. I was off today, okay? And you click the continue thing. And here's the thing. It's programmed, right? It's a pre-programmed response. And it's not really asking if you were in the room still. It's asking if you are still engaged with what is happening. And I wonder, like, if you are experiencing sort of a lack of or deficiency in the area of spiritual growth in your life, emotional development, like being mentally challenged, if you feel stuck, I wonder if part of the reason could be that you are still in the room, but you are not engaged. You're not really dialed in. You are not really committed and connected. I mean, if you were honest, you listen to the sermon, but you don't really ever put it into practice. You write down the homework, but you never really do it. You sign up for the group, but you don't show up for the group. I mean, not after the second week. Who could expect you to do that? I mean, that's crazy. And yet, that's what's required. You see, the reality is people who grow, they do so because they put down roots where they are, and people who don't put down roots wither. And who is responsible for your roots? For you growing the root system you need to grow your life? It's you. And oftentimes we want to make it somebody else's job or their responsibility. But you have already heard this before from somebody over 50 in your life. The reality of it is you can look around and idealize other situations all you want to, but the grass is greener where you water it. But even if you are watering your life, real growth doesn't happen overnight, right? Roots take time to take hold. Fruit doesn't appear the day after you plant the seed. Did your kids ever do that project for science where they had to plant like potatoes or tomatoes or whatever it was in the little styrofoam cup, and then they bring it home and they put it in the windowsill, and they're supposed to watch it for like a month and see what happens? Did your kids do what my kids did? Like, they went to bed and they woke up the next day and they're like, mine's broken, mine's defective. So I knew this wasn't going to work. This is stupid. I did all the things. Maybe if we just put more water, right? They're just drowning it. Because it takes time for the roots to take hold. Theologian Eugene Peterson says that Christian growth is essentially a long obedience in the same direction. In other words, it takes time of doing the same good thing over and over and over and over again for it to take root. How long is it going to take? It depends on what you're trying to grow. I did some research this last week. Apples take 6 to 10 years to go from seed to fruit. Other fruit takes longer. What fruit are you trying to grow in your life? Are you being consistent long enough in the right direction to actually produce the fruit you want? If you are trying to uproot an addiction, it ain't going to happen in a week. You're not going to retrain your toxic thought patterns in 1 month. You are not going to establish long-lasting, life-changing friendship in 90 days or your money back. You are not going to conquer the anxiety issues that you've been dealing with for the last 2 decades in 15 minutes in the prayer corner. It doesn't work like that. In fact, sitting on the surface like we do in our culture, moving quickly and constantly searching for something better, actually results in something called root shock. Like, imagine this. Actually, don't imagine it because I'm just going to show you. I have plants here. If I have this brand new plant that's doing well, and it is potted, and I water it, and I put it out in the sunlight, and I sing beautiful Taylor Swift songs to it, like, I can do all the right things, but let's say that I also do something else. Let's say that every morning I come and I grab it, and I rip it out of the pot that it's in, and I'm like, ooh, this one, and I put it down in that pot. And then I water it here, and I put it in the sunlight here, and then the very next morning I'm like, ooh, what about this one with the little lines on it, right? And I put it in that pot, and I do all the right things, right? And then I'm like, ooh, this one. Ooh, oh no, back over here. It's like the world's worst shell game. Where's the plant? Can you tell it's sticking out the top? Here's the thing. You can do all of the right things that you know you should do, but if you don't do them in the same place long enough, it doesn't matter. The roots won't go deep. You can do all of the right things to tend to a plant, and yet if it doesn't stay put, it will not grow. Because the root shock will keep it stuck and eventually kill it. And see, I would argue that the enemy of your life doesn't really need to fully destroy you. All he needs to do is uproot you and convince you that it's everybody else's fault. And that's often how it works, right? Like, if you need to move on, you need to get out of something, it's never your fault, right? It's always them. Because they're unreasonable. Are they, though? I mean, if you really dig into what it is that makes the community that you found yourself in totally intolerable, is it as bad as you have decided it is? You're like, how dare they call me out on my issues? How dare they hold me accountable to the things I said I was going to do? How dare they disagree with me sometimes? How dare they ask me to contribute time and money into the thing that we're doing, also without encouraging me as much as I want in the exact way that I want? How dare this community treat me like I'm part of it? Isn't it weird that, like, we want to be connected in community, and then as soon as we get a taste of it, we're like, well, I don't like this. But being connected, there's a cost to it. But the cost is way higher to constantly be moving and never put down roots. Which brings us to the only part of Jeremiah that anybody knows, Jeremiah 29:11. Some of you have a tattoo of that, and a coffee cup, and it's also embroidered on a pillow at your house and above your fireplace. You know by memory, right? For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And I love this verse, but we have done something to this verse that I think in our culture we've done to our lives. We've uprooted it from the context that it lives in. Because all of this, the promise that God is making to these people, is in the context of what he says right before. In other words, he's saying, like, all the good things that I have for you are contingent upon how much you are going to lock in and put down roots in this place with these people and get planted. I think a lot of times we are wanting the fruit that God has promised us without putting down the roots required to produce the fruit we're after. And we think we're waiting on God, and God is waiting on us. I got to tell you, if you are feeling lonely and disconnected during the season, let me tell you something that's very inconvenient but true. You will feel as connected to your community as you are committed to your community. The two are directly correlated. And you have already seen this play out. I know I have. I had a friend who a few years ago was like always griping about California and like the politics and how how much it costs to live here and just on and on. And so they finally were just like, I'm going to move. They're like, I found this house in the Midwest. It's half of what it costs here. And I'm like, yeah, but it's in the Midwest. I mean, I'm moving, and I'm going to go out there, and everything's going to be great. Everything's going to be perfect if I can just get there, because here is the problem. And you know what? We celebrated them. We threw a party when they left, loved them, want the best for them, prayed for them. The 6 months in, I called. I was just thinking about them, and I'm like, how's it going? It is the most depressed I've ever heard that person. Because as it turns out, just uprooting themselves and just planting themselves somewhere else, just sitting on the surface in another location, it didn't fix them. And as it turned out, the place they went wasn't as good as they built it up to be, and the place they left wasn't as bad as they'd made it out to be. And they said something to me that I don't think I'll ever forget. I wrote it down because it was so impactful to me. They said, I didn't appreciate what I already had until I left it to chase something that didn't even exist. Do not let this be you. That you are dissatisfied with the relationship you have, the family you have, the house you have, the community you have, the church you have. And you decide that you are going to pull up everything and run somewhere else. And I got to tell you, that place is not as perfect as you're imagining it is. And this place is not as bad as you have convinced yourself it is. Maybe the problem isn't the environment. Maybe it's your level of engagement. Could that be true? And could it be that you may not learn this lesson until you go chase something and find out that when you get to the end of that rainbow, there is no gold there. Just another pile of manure. Just like the place you left. But fortunately, manure makes things grow. And I wonder what would happen if you just said, God has me here. Right now, in this moment, I'm going to be all here. I'm going to be all in. I'm going to embrace the people in this place. I'm going to work to solve the problems in this place. I'm going to contribute my life to this place. I'm going to show up and I'm going to be about it. I'm going to do it again and again and again and again and again. And when I'm bored, I will bring somebody along that's kind of fun and I'll do it again and again. I wonder if you are showing up to your community in a way that enables them to show up for you. If you are consistently around and engaged enough for people to be to you what you want them to be, because you were involved in the way that you need to. This is the year that we put down roots. And this is why I want to challenge everybody to the same homework. And it's steep, but I think if you want what it produces, it's worth what it costs. And this is it. I want to challenge all of you to attend this year every weekend you possibly can. And I want you to immediately take a next step the moment you think of it. These two things will transform your life if you take it seriously. Now, I get that you can watch online. I get that you could catch up on the podcast. I get that you can dip in and out. But here's the thing. The consistency will win. And if you make it a priority to keep showing up, to keep putting yourself in this place around these people and to engage and to get involved, it will change your life. But don't just be in the room, engage. Engage. I know you probably tell yourself like, yeah, I'm eventually going to get in a group and I'm eventually going to sign up for a team and I'm going to get baptized one of these days. What are you waiting for? Take the next step. There are next step cards on the back of every chair every single week. The Connect counter is open and it has a sign that is neon that says Connect. So it is like the least confusing things possible if you're trying to connect. What if you are what is holding you back? Because you're dragging your feet. You're inconsistent. You're tentative. What if this is the year that you're like, you know what? I'm going to be all in. I wonder, as you push your roots down deep, what fruit might grow up above. Don't you want to find out? I want to pray this into your life today. Would you just bow your heads across this room? God, we believe that you are good. We believe that you love us. We believe that you created us on purpose and for a purpose. And yet, there is a relentless restlessness inside of each of us. That just feels unsettled, that just feels like there's got to be something more, better, different, and it makes us want to go and chase something or someone somewhere else. And yet, I think that the message that you were giving us to begin this year is maybe you don't need to add a million things. Maybe you just need to plant yourself where God put you, to put your roots down deep, to go all in, to take it seriously, to be consistent. God, you show up for us consistently. What if we showed up for you in the same way this year? If we met you with the kind of consistency that you give us, what might happen in our homes, in our marriage, in our families, at our workplace, in our finances? God, may we be people that grab hold of self-control, the fruit of the Spirit that you gift us to partner with you, to walk one foot in front of the other in your direction, to stomach the difficult days, the unfun days, the boring days, the annoying days, and to feel a slow sense of fulfillment creep in as our roots go down deep and the evidence, the fruit, the fulfillment we are searching for begins to bloom slowly over time. May this be the year that we focus on being planted and we leave what that needs to produce up to you. May it be our best year yet. In Jesus' name, amen.